when properly heard and chanted. We'll read the para 2 of this purport of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Just the para 2 will read. The Lord is reciprocally respondent to his devotees. When he sees that a devotee is completely sincere in getting admittance to the transcendental service of the Lord and thus becomes eager to hear about him, the Lord acts from within the devotee in such a way that the devotee may easily go back to him. Like we always say that if we take one step, Krishna takes 10 steps towards us. So when we start chanting his name and when we start doing Shravana of the messages that come from him in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, when we start the process of Shravana and Kirtana, help automatically comes from the Supreme Lord, and it becomes his responsibility now to take us back home, back to Godhead. The Lord, this is very interesting what Srila Prabhupada writes here. The Lord is more anxious to take us back into his kingdom than we can desire. We are still stuck to the material world with so many attractions, right? But actually, the Lord is more eager than us to take us back home, back to God. Most of us do not desire at all to go back home, back to God. Only a very few men want to go back to Godhead. But anyone who desires to go back to Godhead, Krishna helps in all respects. So that's an interesting part of the uh, purport where Srila Prabhupada wants to highlight the aspect of bhakti and pushing this point of bhakti. Yeah. So bhakti is actually the means and bhakti is the end. And even for that matter, the process of karma and jnana is considered as an anartha in the development of bhakti. Well, that's very nice sloka. Again, I would love it if uh, all of us are able to, um, memorize this verse as well. Shunvatam swakata Krishna punya shravana kirtana hridyantasto hi abhadrani vidunoti suhurta satam. The last two lines are actually, makes you very overwhelmed about the mercy that the Lord has for us. Hridyantasto hi abhadrani. He personally enters your heart to vidunoti, to clean all the, abhadrani, all the, the anarthas that you have, the impurities that you have. He personally comes to clean them because he is your suhurta. Yeah, he is your supreme benefactor. If you are a satam, he is a suhurta for all the satam, or if you're practicing devotional service very sincerely. And then in sloka number 18, uh, he talks about the nishta. So let's remember these four things which we have completed: Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivriti. Yeah, so we have covered four. Five more to go before we close for today. So the next 18th sloka is Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Anyway, this has got a small purport. We'll see if we can read this purport also. So, how do we do this process of bhakti? One is Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu. All the Abhadras are destroyed by what is the process? Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Nityam is translated as eternal, regular, and daily. The anarthas have to be removed by the process of hearing. And then Nashta Prayeshu, almost completely destroyed. Then Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So, Nishta, Bhakti becomes, fixed completely in your heart and becomes an irrevocable fact. So, what's the translation of this verse? By regular attendance in classes of the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service to the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. So we have reached the stage of Nishtha. And in this purport is also important. So we'll try to read at least the second para of this purport. The devotee Bhagavata is a direct, a representative of Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. So now, Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. In the earlier line, Srila Prabhupada writes in the about the Bhagavata book and the person are identical. So when he talks about Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, serving the book Bhagavatam and serving the Bhagavata or the devotee of the Lord are actually identical to each other. That's an interesting point. So when we say Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, we should have an expanded meaning in our mind that Bhagavata Sevaya means serving the book Bhagavatam and serving the devotee Bhagavata. So that's a very interesting point that Srila Prabhupada makes. The devotee Bhagavata is a direct representative of Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. So by pleasing the devotee Bhagavata, one can receive the benefits of the book Bhagavata. Human reason fails to understand how by serving the devotee Bhagavata or the book Bhagavata, one gets gradual promotion on the path of devotion. But actually, these are facts explained by Srila Narada Deva, who happened to be a maidservant's son in his previous life. So the maidservant was engaged in the menial service of the sages, and thus he also came in contact with them. So by, I think it was the Chaturmasya month, where the traveling sannyasis would stop wherever they are and not move around for about 4 months. So by some causeless mercy, these sages landed at the home of Narada Muni, whose mother was a maid servant. So by virtue of just staying there, he got the association of devotees. And what happened with the association of the devotees? Narada Muni became, what do we say, a spaceman, yeah, and traveling and describing the glories of Narayana everywhere he goes. So he is like considered to be a Deva Rishi. He is the Rishi of all the Devatas. So that's the position he got by just Mahat Sevaya and Shravanam and Kirtanam of the words of the Mahat Sevaya, or by serving the Bhagavata. Okay, so that is Nishtha. And then once it becomes an irrevocable fact, Then in sloka number 19, it is talking about, after discussing the Nishta, the Ruchi and Asakti is being described in the next sloka, which is Tada Rajas. So this is sloka number 19. Next sloka you can move on to. Tada Rajastamo Bhava Kama Lobhadayascha ye Cheta Eter Anavittam Sthitam Satve Prasidati. So when you're in a state of where the bhakti becomes an irrevocable fact in your heart, as soon as the translation is, as soon as the irrevocable loving service is established in the heart, the effect of the nature's modes of passion and ignorance, such as lust, desire, and hankering, disappear from the heart. Then the devotee is established in goodness and he becomes completely happy. A gross materialist always thinks that I will do pious activities and I will create a situation for myself when I will be always happy. I will keep counteracting all the miseries of material existence, and I will always manage to be in a situation of being happy. Yeah, but still, the modes of material nature has got its own ways, and the finality of all those happiness is finished when Mrityu Sarva Haras Chaham, Krishna says. Mrityu or death is the end of all the aspirations that we have, the desires that we have, the lusty desires that we have. Everything is getting completely finished when Mrityu comes. Yeah. So the materialists keep trying to invent ways of conquering death also. The scientists are researching continuously, but they are fooling themselves. Nothing, they have been a miserable failure. In fact, with the progression of the yugas and the progression, so-called progression of science, we find that people are dying earlier and earlier and earlier, right? There are heart attacks which have become common at 46. Very pious person, the son of Rajkumar, Puneet Rajkumar, who died recently at the age of 46. He was doing everything to keep himself absolutely fit. And what happened? He just died at the same place where he was going there to pursue his fitness. He died at the fitness club. So, whatever it is, death is the final blow. Mrityu sarva haras chaham. So, actually, we should finish off the effects of the nature's mode of passion and ignorance, and thus be situated in sthitam sattve prasidati. So we have to be situated in sattva gun. Sattva gun is a state which is the basic necessity for progress in spiritual life, but we are not there yet. Okay. So that was sloka number 19, which is Sthitam Sattve Prasidati. So we are in a situation of a strong intelligence which helps us to keep the mind in control, and this will ultimately lead to Ruchi and Ashakti. Yeah. So these are the different aspects which are covered in the sloka number 19, which we can say is once Nishta is developed, as explained in sloka number 18, we will be in a state of um, Ruchi and Asakti. Okay. Ruchi is we get a taste. And once we get the taste for um, spiritual life, then we automatically get detachment from the material life. Ruchi and Asakti are the result. And then what happens is explained in sloka number 20, where there is explanation given of bhava and prema. So let's just go back to the different bhakti phases. We start with Shraddha, then we move on to Sadhu Sangha, then we have Bhajana Kriya in the association of sadhus, and Bhajana Kriya also includes the process of spiritual initiation. And then Anartha Nivriti happens, or the famous sloka which we are supposed to memorize, where Vidu Noti Suhurta Satan. Krishna comes personally into your heart to clean your heart of all the anarthas that you have. Once anartha nivriti, then nishta, ruchi, asakti, and in sloka number 20, there is discussion of bhava and prema. So, evam prasanna manaso bhagavat bhakti yogataha Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam Mukta Sangasya Jayate. So once we are Sthitam Sattve Prasidati, okay, what happens then? Thus established in the mode of unalloyed goodness. From Sattva Gun, we move to Shuddha Sattva Gun, okay, unalloyed goodness. The man whose mind has been enlivened by contact with devotional service to the Lord gains positive scientific knowledge to the personality of Godhead at the stage of liberation from all material association. Okay, so it's basically evam prasanna manaso. The prasanna manaso happens in a state of complete happiness. That happens only when we are in the Vishuddha Sattva gun, or unalloyed devotional service, when we are stated in. Mind gets enlivened completely, and then we get a connection to the Haladini Shakti of the Lord, and that is the internal potency of the Lord, and yogataha, which is the internal energy of the Lord, and we start getting the mercy from the Lord, and we start seeing Krishna personally. Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam. So we talked about jnana and vijnana. So jnana is knowledge and vijnana is realized knowledge or practical applied knowledge. Yeah. So in Vrindavan, the vijnana starts from a very, very young age. People start herding the cows at the age of 2, right? So that means very young cowherd boys, they start tending to the cows. So it's like on the job trading for almost from the time of birth. On the job training happens. And by the time they are 6, when Krishna enters his Pauganda age, then he is not looking after cows anymore. There's a big ceremony organized in Vrindavan. And after that ceremony, when you're just 6 years old, you're allowed to take care of all the cows in Vrindavan. So it's like on the job training for all. So they are all in a state of vijnana or realized knowledge. Yeah. And when that kind of vijnana happens, what is the result of that? Wow, we're going to get free. We're going to get free by Vid, that is the next sloka 21, which is Vidyante Hridaya Grantis Chityante Sarva Samshayaha Shiyante Chasya Karmani Drishtva Evat Manishware. Thus the knot in the heart is pierced and all misgivings are cut to pieces. The chain of fruitive actions is terminated when one sees the self as master. So the knots of the three modes of material nature is completely broken and cut to pieces. What is the result? We saw in the Damodar Leela pastimes. When we are free, then we have the capability of tying the Lord with the ropes of love which Mother Yashoda had for Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Isn't that a wonderful situation to be in? How glorious is Sanatan Dharma? Sanatan Dharma is the process where we are not God fearing, we are trained to be God loving. And when we are in the stage of God loving, then what happens is we are able to tie the Supreme Lord with the ropes of love. Yeah? How can anybody tie the Lord with the ropes? That's a impossible task, right? Because the Lord who is Ajita, or he can never be defeated, but is still defeated by Yashoda, who ties him around his belly, the same belly which is holding the opulences of the entire universe, right? What is the proof of that? When Krishna opened his mouth, when there was a complaint from Balaram that he has eaten dirt, what did Yashoda see? Yashoda saw the entire universe in the mouth of Krishna. So it is that Krishna who is the older of all the universes being tied by Mother Yashoda around the belly. So that's something which is inconceivable, and that's something which we cannot imagine. And that's what Mother Yashoda did. How did she do that? Just with the ropes of love or devotional service, the spirit that she had in dealing with Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Once that happens, the chain of fruitive actions is completely terminated when one sees the self as the master. And then the final verse of this section, sloka number 22. Ato vaikavayo nityam bhaktim paramaya mura Vasudeve Bhagavati Purvanti Atma Prasandanim. Okay, certainly, therefore, since time immemorial, all transcendentalists have been rendering devotional service to Krishna with the personality of Godhead with great delight. Yeah, Kurvanti Atma Prasan Kurvanti Atma Prasadanim. Yeah. So, in a very delightful mood, they perform devotional service because such devotional service is enlivening to the self. So, it all concludes with actually Krishna glory. I mean, the Srimad Bhagavatam in this section, how bhakti progresses from Shraddha to Prema. And once we are in Prema, what is the feelings that we have from within? So we are in a state of complete enlightenment, and that is very, very enlivening to the self. So Bhakti ki jai. So we'll stop here. We still have about 5 minutes. I got a little overwhelmed thinking of the Damodar Mahina, pastimes of the Lord. I would have liked to finish the lecture about 10 minutes early, but we don't have sufficient time for questions today as I have to rush for work as well. But still, if there is a quick comment, we can.
Prabhu,
Yes, Sushil Prabhu.
in in verse 20, there is a word used, Vasudeva Avastha.
Verse 20.
In the second last paragraph, the man gets changed from Brahman Avastha to Vasudeva Avastha. To this,
Yeah. So
so
what
this
was it?
Vasudeva is it means the father of Krishna.
Yes, that's right. 1 to 20, right?
Yeah.
That is Evam Prasanna Manaso Bhagavat Bhakti Yogataha.
So you
Bhagavat,
come to the purport, no?
okay. Purport which,
Last paragraph.
okay.
This is.
Yeah, a pure Vaishnava is a liberated soul and is transcendental even to a position of a Brahmana. Okay, so Brahmana is again a designation. A Vaishnava is even higher than a Brahmana, right? In the material stage, even a Brahmana is also a conditioned soul because although in the Brahminical state, the conception of Brahman or transcendence is realized, scientific knowledge of the Supreme Lord is lacking. So here, what Srila Prabhupada is talking about is the Brahman realized people. So they have a concept of the effulgence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but they have not reached the Bhagavan realization. Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavan iti sabhyate. The three stages of realization. The first stage is the Brahman realization, which is realizing the effulgence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And there is an attempt there to merge with the Brahman effulgence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is mistaken for the spiritual realization. Though that is spiritual realization, that is not the best situation to be in. So they haven't reached the Bhagavan realization, which is the nature of the Vaishnava.
No, that's okay. But in this, what has been underlined, one has to surpass the Brahmical stage and reach the Vasudeva stage. That is the Krishna or his father? What exactly?
Let's read on. One has to be realized scientific knowledge of the Supreme Lord. One has to surpass the Brahminical stage
And
and reach the Vasudeva stage to understand the personality of Godhead Krishna. So Vasudeva stage is a stage where you understand Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the son of Vasudev, Vasudeva. Yeah, so that is actually a reference to Krishna only.
it's,
Uh,
it refers to Krishna.
scientific
Just one point, Prabhu, I would like to add here is Vasudev stage is also called as Shuddha Sattva stage. Yeah, the pure mode of goodness.
okay.
So it says that pure mode of goodness is required to be able to transcend the drawbacks of mode of goodness also. So although mode of goodness is better than mode of passion and ignorance, it also still has its own drawbacks because it is also part of the material nature. And in order to transcend that, those drawbacks of mode of goodness, one has to reach the Shuddha Sattva, the pure mode of goodness stage, which the name of that stage is Vasudev stage.
But Prabhu, in Hindi, they have written Vasudev. That creates confusion.
Yes,
Actually.
yes. ये क्या होता है ना प्रभु, the a aspect in English is not clearly meaning spelled out by the alphabet A. So that is why these diacritic or accentuated characters are required. And if at all there is a minor mistake, in this case it's actually should be Vasudev and there should be a line above A that is missing. So which can
No problem, sir. I understood.
which can create confusion as between Vasudeva and Vasudev.
Okay, so Vasudeva stage is actually the stage of Shuddha Sattva Gun. Am I right, Prabhu?
Yes, thank you, sir.
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, it's Vasudeva stage. Yeah.
Vasudeva stage. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay. So it was a pleasure discussing Srimad Bhagavatam today. And thank you all very much for your patient hearing. And I'll do my little bit effort to try and popularize this with my other groups as well. The numbers should grow. But anyway, numbers are in one sense not important, because when Bhagavatam is being spoken, all the devatas are all automatically joining us and listening to Bhagavatam along with all of us. And the devatas are great devotees of the Lord, and they can join even without having the the link given by Subal Prabhu. So discussion of Bhagavatam is of prime importance, and even if you are two people discussing, it is still worthy of discussion. It's the only thing that is worthwhile in this material world. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna. So shall I leave the meeting, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu, you can leave, Prabhu. We will continue for a moment. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you all for joining. As Prabhu said, if it is possible, you also can try to, forward this message to other of your groups and see if more people can join. It will help and benefit them a lot, and obviously ourselves also. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Rao Prabhuji. Thank you so much for the sharing screen and coordinating for this. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. We'll take a leave now.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.